Hey, so it's been over a year since I've done a making a shot from start to finish series, and so I think we're gonna do another one with this right here. And this is part one, making the environment, or at least getting started on it. And it's kind of with an emphasis on how do you build a shot out of just random pieces you may have gotten on a shoot day, of like behind the scenes photography or random drone footage and stuff, and how can we use that to make a whole new thing. I go kind of fast and loose, and I kind of only show the parts I think that are most useful or interesting. That said, everything I do here, I have done in depth in a tutorial in the past. Like, if you want to know more about lighting with volumetrics or cleaning up photo scans, just type that into the search in the Patreon, and you'll find full tutorials going into, all the different details about how to do that. But yeah, this is going to be what we do today. And I am honestly kind of surprised how well this works. So let's get into it. So I am just constantly excited about kind of where technology's at, especially for low budget filmmaking. Like the ability to like take footage and project it back into a scene and like photo scan a thing and mix it over there and like shoot some stock footage of rain, like that, just kind of mixing and matching from real life. I think that's really cool. And for the Pete episode, there's this guy we meet named Rust Boy, played by Nathan Vegdahl.
Rust Boy's me. I'm a freeway pirate.
And you kind of get the impression that he's a liar.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought that'd be fun to have like a post-credit scene just where you see him on this moped with like a harpoon chasing a truck, and you're like, oh, look at that, okay. Because I have a lot of the assets that I need for that. I've still got Nathan. Nathan is a great asset. Put it back in the costume, get him in kind of the bike riding position. We filmed this back before I was just scanning everything I filmed with, just to cover my butt. But Chromefill's making a model of the moped, so I can just put him on that, and then to make the environment. So this is in Washington. I actually live in a really cool place because I have like every biome just squished together. We have the ocean, the coast with the big rocks and all that. We have a rainforest, we've got the mountains, we've got, the sound, and then we've got more mountains. And the mountains catch all of the rain, so we're always wet. But as soon as you get over the mountains, it's just desert like this, which I always was intimidated by because it's just straight fractal. Like, that's so hard to model because it's just so dense. But I did that old trick where you take an alpha channeled version of the sagebrush and just kind of set it up on a bunch of planes, so no matter what angle you're looking at it kind of like straight on, and it works surprisingly well. I'm also doing the thing where I'm mixing between the original shader and a transparent shader using the layer weight facing, which just means the more dead on you're looking at the layer, the more visible it is. So once you get off axis, it starts to fade out, which means you're not looking along the edges of a bunch of squished layers. And yeah, you can see it kind of happening, especially here. But in general, like, if there's a lot of them and if the camera's moving fast, you're never going to notice. Like, this feels great to me. Here, and I can easily swap out the sagebrush to have like different looks. And ideally on set, I would have gotten a good picture of the sagebrush, against the sky, either a blue sky or a flat gray sky, so I could do like a blue screen or a luma key to extract just that sagebrush. But I didn't have that, so I went into Flickr to the Creative Commons search and found and people have uploaded lots of pictures of the desert. So I just extracted a single sagebrush from like somebody's vacation photos that they'd uploaded to the public domain, which is maybe kind of a weird way to do it, but also nobody could ever say like which picture this sagebrush is from. I mean, maybe you could if you tried, but nobody ever would. And there's also like Pixabay and Unsplash and lots of stock photography sites if you don't happen to have a thing from the day. And to make deserts and stuff in the past, I've just saved out a big high-res export from Google Earth Pro, looking down at like a good section of desert, and it's always it's always very flat. Even if I kind of like try to model it so it has hills and stuff, it just kind of looks like it's a big JPEG, big warbly subdivision JPEG. But I was thinking, okay, well, I take something like that, but then I cover it in a bunch of sagebrush, and then maybe suddenly I kind of have a desert. But I thought, wouldn't it make even more sense to go out there with my drone to the desert and get like some photo scans of some big rock formations? Except that's like 3.5 hours each way. It'd be a big old thing. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. And the problem with that again is that wherever there are sagebrush, it always kind of turns into just weird lumps because there's no way drone footage is going to capture a good sagebrush scan. So I'm thinking, all right, smooth that out. Use a particle system or something to spread the sagebrush on top. That could be cool. Just waiting to get out to Eastern Washington. But I just realized for the Pete episode, we filmed a ton of drone footage out in the desert. Bo's down here on his moped. Johnny Valencia is controlling the drone. And yeah, we just got a ton of footage like this. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe I use a couple little bits like this, run them through like a polycam or reality capture, see if I can get a decent 3D model out, animate my camera, you know, populate it with the sagebrush. I'll use Chromefell's little guy here. I'll rescan Nathan and see if we can make a complete new shot, just kind of out of scraps. I'm really excited. So first, let's go through the drone footage and see what we got. I kind of was thinking we'd have the shot where he's going through the sagebrush with the harpoon, and then he like goes off an embankment, or you know, pops out of a ditch onto the road behind some truck, and maybe there's a guy on a truck with a gun. Like, the whole deal is there's a lot of mining and stuff that takes place out in the Dustlands, and there's kind of an arms race as the freeway pirates are kind of trying to amp up their game, and so the trucks are also like ludicrously defended, and there's just it's all very, you know, Mad Maxy out there. Oh, look at this! Just some nice close-up stuff of like dirt roads just cutting through the desert. Oh, this is great. So I'm hoping, you know, if I can mix some close-up stuff with some whiteout stuff, it'll just kind of adaptively, we'll get a best of all worlds thing going on. Yeah, so the problem with this, typically if you're doing a scan, you want a full 360-degree deal. You want, you know, to show the front and the back. But in this case, the nice thing about setting up shots is that it only really needs to work from one angle, as long as the shot doesn't, you know, go all the way around. So I think we'll be in much, like right here, this is great footage for getting a scan of this rock face. Unfortunately, there's very directional lighting built in, which means I'm going to have to line everything up so it kind of works with, I don't know, I'm going to have to finagle a little bit in that capacity. But, yeah, I miss the desert. I should honestly go out and do some scans out in the desert just to have fun with it. Hey, here's my van. It's my van again. Hey, there's us. We're so small. I was thinking it's so funny, like in the desert, I feel like a person should be like this big, and we just look so tiny. I'm just really bad at estimating how large this type of landscape is. Oh, and we got a lot of stuff just looking straight down. This could be really good. And yeah, look at how small we are. We're always like a quarter the size that it's so tiny. Wow. Some of these shots are actually already in the episode just because they look so cool. And wait a second. Okay, look at this. So he stands up. He's mostly still. His arms are moving. Could I scan that? I'm gonna try scanning that. And wait, is he in basically the same position for right here? That might be like a full 360. It won't work well, but I want to try it anyways. Oh, this is cool. I wonder the degree to which the lens flare will mess this up, because you can see these values are not very clear. Ooh, oh, this cliff? Okay. And I've said it before, but like, this is the campfire where we filmed. And this is the giant cliff that, like, we kept drunkenly almost walking off and dying, which was pretty great. Oh, and we got all of this stuff just looking down at the road. Oh, this would be so good. I wish there weren't this awkward lighting going on. Also, it probably looks like you have, like, weird YouTube compression. That's actually from, like, the original footage. This is right before drones were really able to save high-quality footage, and so the compression here is just a little bit horrible. There's, and the colors that's, like, optimized for does not match this, like, sagebrush. Like, look at this. This is so bananas. The sagebrush is just, like, grayscale. It just gives up. It has no idea how to do that color. That's so weird. And I'm gonna go into the video editor and make the resolution match the drone footage, 3840 by 2160. I could use reality capture, which is honestly probably better for doing big landscapes, but I've gotten so used to being lazy with polycam, and my whole goal is like the motion blur is gonna hide a lot of our sins anyways, so I'm just gonna stick with this. Let's just drag in our footage straight to the timeline. And let's see, this might be a little bit tricky, but I'm going to delete the audio, hit Shift-A, Effects Strip, Speed Control, and that means whatever length we make this will be the speed that, like if we bring it all the way down to 250, frame 250 here, it will speed the whole clip up to match into that 250 frames, which is cool because Polycam only lets you upload 250 pictures, and Blender's default frame range is 0 to 250, so we just have to make it fit in Blender. That said, I don't want to use the whole clip. I want to try to dial it in so it's mostly the rock face here. So let's see. So okay, there we go. I've sped it up quite a bit. Here's the rock face. Here's some of the land beyond. Ooh, we keep going here. I'm gonna make it a little bit longer. I don't totally know what I'm going to do about these lakes because I want it to feel like it's kind of just like very dry and dusty. It's called the Dustlands. But yeah, this range seems pretty good. There's like a this rock feature, this kind of area of sagebrush, and then this other rock feature, which I feel like I could probably use to create a thing. I don't know. It's always hard working with landscapes because you never get a clean edge. It just kind of like, it's all warbles, and how do you fit multiple pieces together? But we'll figure it out. Okay, so now figure out where to save it. Pete, drone footage, rocks and grass, nailed it. Rocks and grass, Gox and grass, yeah. Change it to JPEG because the original quality of this is junk anyways. Control F12. Just realized my head was probably blocking the resolution sliders when I was changing that, but that's just a challenge, and that's how we grow. All right, and I'm in the web interface of Polycam. Gonna click Create New, drag my footage into here. You've used the maximum number of images. Yeah, I did. I'm gonna use full here, and just there it goes. I'll just do that process a few times. And that is something that I really do appreciate about Polycam as opposed to reality capture, is just the fact that like I can keep using my computer. It's not completely bogged down trying to process as I babysit all of these different scans. I can just like create my frame ranges, upload them, and at some point I'll check back and they'll just be done. I'm gonna have to talk to Nathan about the best way to rig up a motorcycle. Because it's pretty easy. You can just have it follow a curve, but there's stuff you can do by having like the front wheel target the path just ahead of where it's at to make the steering feel a little more natural. I'm going to try to rig up the Nathan photo scan with a bunch of IK stuff, so hopefully it'll all be dynamic. And I might use a wiggle bone so that everything kind of just like reacts to the ground a little bit. We'll see. And then in a new tab, create new, drop in all of our images, and there it goes. I could do this all day. So I uploaded this incredible little image sequence here with the file name will not work, and this is the result. And this one kind of makes sense. I think it didn't know whether we wanted to scan the foreground stuff or the background stuff, and so it kind of just gave us this mess. I'm going to try this one in reality capture. Meanwhile, I'm exporting this straight down view, which is nice because it was actually cloudy, which means I feel like this, if I scatter it with my own sagebrush, and then add a sunlight, it might actually play kind of nice. And then I could also add in like, some apocalyptic ruins and things and see how that goes. And interesting, okay, this is kind of failure number 2, I guess. Like there's a bit of it, they got this rock face here, but it's like land kind of folded in on itself. So I'm gonna try this one with reality capture too. Just dumping the same input in here, the same 250 frames, and we'll see how it goes. And okay, yeah, reality capture is looking a lot cleaner. You can see right here, this is the path of all the pictures that were taken, and it looks like it knows what's going on. So, yeah, I think I'll try to use that. Although I did just notice something. In my export here, I have these burnt-in black bars, it looks like, which, that could probably mess up a reconstruction. I wonder if all of them have that. And okay, got another one back from Polycam. This one reconstructed kind of more like I would expect, although you can still see, like, this worked actually pretty good. And in fact, it might be doing some sort of optimization for the browser, and we might even have more texture detail than this. But also just the fact that it doesn't really know the part that I want. Like, I would very happily have just gotten this part, and instead I have, like, this whole crazy thing. I think... And also reality capture lets me put in more frames if I want to. So I might jump back into reality capture for doing more of these landscape things. Wow, look at this. Okay, so obviously it can only reconstruct the stuff that it actually had, could see, and the camera was only looking one direction. But I always forget the detail that reality capture can give you. I'm gonna try going all the way with this one, texturing it up. First I'm gonna simplify it. And I got one of those looking straight down views from Polycam I'm gonna try real quick. Gonna scale it up to something kind of reasonable. And which way is up? I think this way's up, and it just looks backwards because sometimes Polycam stuff can have weird normals. So I'm gonna go into the data properties under geometry data and say, well, how do we do this? You can see it imports in all these different patches. So I'm gonna select everything and hit M, merge by distance, and just even leaving it at like 0, 1, it still combines 3,000 vertices. And now I think we can clear custom split normals data, and we've got something that looks pretty good here. I might turn off the auto smoothing. And how's that look? That's pretty good. I'm going to try to bring in some of the advanced normal mapping data here. Yeah, here's the normal map. I'm going to change this to non-colored data and put it into a normal map. And let's see if that helps break things up a little bit. Honestly, the normal map just kind of makes everything lumpy in a way I'm not particularly jazzed about. I'm gonna try a bump map too. And suddenly everything is white. It doesn't seem to be because of anything. I don't know. I think there's just a bug in Blender. And the poly count for this has been turned way down, so I can click texture here. I'm probably just using up all my RAM or something like that. That's probably what it is. Reality Capture's trying to hold like 400 4K JPEGs in its head all at once, and that probably uses up any available space that I got. But let's see, are my colors back? No! But other stuff can be other colors, and so it's not like a material override. Oh! Oh, well, okay. It unchecked use nodes. That fixes it. I've never accidentally unchecked that before. That is interesting. Okay, so now I can plug this texture data down into the height of the bump, turn it all down quite a bit. But now this kind of feels like I don't know, it's still not particularly high poly. I'm gonna try this one through Reality Capture too. And this one looks okay if it's like really tiny. Here, let's try scattering some sagebrush on it. If you've never used the scatter tool, it's very cool. It comes included with Blender, but you just have to activate the add-on in the preferences. But then you can select the sagebrush, shift-click on the thing you want to scatter it onto, and hit F3, scatter objects, and it lets you just paint around with this curve here. So let's try just sticking it in some areas. We'll refine it in a second. I want to put it particularly in places where I think there's kind of some existing, blob shrubbery that I want to hide. Although, in this case, I should probably have smoothed it first instead of just trying to cover it. And under the tool settings, I can change the density and the scale. I want to shrink it and turn up the radius, the distance from the stroke. And let's see how that looks if we render it. And ooh, that looks good. I'd probably, the scale is all wrong, and I'd want to darken them and probably desaturate and do some other stuff. But considering this is just a really junky, low poly environment, this the sagebrush adds a lot of legitimacy. I'm really happy. And this looks okay. You can definitely see the footage from the drone does not have the color information it needs to really make a good scan, but I might be able to kind of tweak stuff in Blender. So I will try bringing this on in. I think it's mesh model, dense mesh model. The new interface is not particularly intuitive. Yeah, desaturating these guys a bunch actually does seem to help quite a bit in terms of realism. I don't know. I'm gonna try importing the cliffside camp and just see how it looks. And some stuff reconstructed really well, but other stuff didn't. So I'm gonna tab into here, and basically anything that's big and blocky like this, I just want to get rid of. So I'm gonna select this face and hit Shift G, select by similar area, and I'm gonna say anything greater than this piece, let's just delete that, and hopefully that kind of cleans things up a little bit here. I'll add a little camera, and if I'm lucky, I should just be able to duplicate this in -1. And let's see, can we? I guess it does have a sun direction, so we'll see how this all works out. But let's see, how's it look when we render it? And wow, yeah, that is not that is not particularly good. I could probably set this to my A7 III, which kind of will simulate more of a log look, correct it a bit. Which does kind of, I mean, obviously now the sky is super saturated, but in terms of the values of the cliffside and the cliff, that's helping a lot. I think a lot of the problem here is just that lens flare bleeding in from the top. But I could still definitely do my thing with the sagebrush. And here, let's scatter in this area. Woo! Yeah, okay. Turn down the radius, turn the scale down a bit, and let's see how that looks. And there's places that work. If I'd been shooting this specifically to reconstruct it, I think I could have gotten much better results. And the sagebrush really are carrying a lot of the weight here, but I don't think this scan in particular will be useful. And okay, I think the sagebrush is carrying a lot of the weight here. And if I were shooting this drone footage specifically for reconstruction, I would have shot things a lot differently and probably just, gotten a whole just pass of the cliff in the area without, seeing all the way to the horizon and all of that, and avoided shooting into the sun. But anyways, yeah, it's interesting, but probably not really useful, especially because of all the blue. And okay, I did the same thing with this bit. This is actually a huge scan area. This right here is like a little parking lot. And these are paths and stuff, so these sagebrush are absolutely huge, but it isn't high enough res to actually use it at the proper scale, so I'm just using it for the texture and putting the sagebrush on top of it. And the camera's going to be moving, you know, pretty fast like this. Woo! And I really want a guy, you know, I want Nathan on the motorcycle going across these hills as he gets over the road and pulls out a harpoon and he's chasing the truck. In fact, I think I'm going to start the shot looking at, he has a little floating robot buddy, and so we're going to start with the little robot whipping out like a pair of steak knives, like, ah! And then we'll see him in the background. It'll just be like a very silly ending to the episode. But yeah, obviously the actual scan bit isn't doing much, except for giving a nice kind of groundwork for the land and some good texture values. Okay, and I added some volumetrics, which helps kind of tie everything together pretty good. And yeah, if you're curious about volumetrics, I've got a whole video about that I put up fairly recently. They're very fun, and with Cycles X and new GPUs, they can actually render in a not insane amount of time. So I think I want to get some more rock elements in there though. So I processed this one scan again, but in reality capture, and we'll see how it works. And there it is. It looks pretty messy. What I really want to do is I want to go back out to the desert and like just scan things kind of looking down so I get the whole deal, because there's different rock buttes that stick out of the landscape, and I'm like, I could get the whole thing so easily. We weren't shooting with that in mind, but I still think I can kind of set this up. And it's really tempting to want to use this bit. This part right here is the part where the drone actually flew over, which is why it actually kind of looks presentable from this angle. So I want to see if I can use that. Also, I want to figure out how to get, you know, these values to match up, which probably just means I should put in an RGB curve and darken it a little bit. I feel like I'm keep darkening everything else to match everything else, and now everything is way darker than it should be, but I think that's probably okay. And turn down the saturation just a tad. I think the drone footage really amps up the saturation. That said, when you look at this, apart from the parts that don't work, it kind of works. I might start off and just see if I can isolate this front bit so I can use it, copy and paste it as a few different modules. So I'm going to duplicate this entire little bit, go into local view, and I'm going to use some booleans just to really quickly start to eat this away. Now, this is really high poly. It's like a big landscape element, so I didn't put many restrictions on the number of polygons I could use. And I have to remember, this is the bit that I'm really trying to capture right here. And this already looks pretty darn good, actually. Let's see, do I want to... I'm mostly trying to make it so it works from one angle. And unfortunately, this bit's kind of weird, but maybe that can be fine. So yeah, let's do this. I have the bool tool enabled, so if I hit Control negative on the numpad, it'll perform a boolean operation. Although again, it'll take a while because I have a lot of geometry in this thing. And it exploded. Here, let's change it to fast. Sometimes that uses, I think, a different algorithm. And yeah, there we go. It's weird that fast also seems more exact sometimes. I'm gonna do the same thing with another cube right here. Okay, just trying to get rid of everything that doesn't work, and then I'll make the stuff that does work even better in a second. Control negative. Control negative. Control negative. Uh-oh, here, change that to fast. Phew, okay, I'm gonna apply all of these. Control A. So I can delete all these old booleans, and how's that looking from our perspective? That's looking pretty good. Alright, I'm gonna delete all of this old boolean geometry, and I think I want to kind of pull this part back so that we can blend it into the ground, and I don't want this one part that's just swinging off into the sky. So here, let's set up a cube just to provide a point of reference and maybe be a boolean object later. I could just kind of cheat here, right click, set origin to geometry. I could just kind of cheat the whole thing like this, and like this could be our rock element, and actually, I mean, that's pretty good. Tab into edit mode, and I'm just gonna grab random pieces here, and with proportional editing turned on, I can just pull this whole bit down just to separate it. I just want to have it be its own freestanding bit. Control negative, fast, apply. And alright, let's try, here I'm gonna hide this one, sticking this bit in here somewhere and see how it works. So I'm going to place it here kind of towards the beginning of the shot, and that looks like it's all just going to work really good. Yeah, you can see it's maybe a little bit overly baked in lighting, like you can really see. Is this direct sunlight? That could be direct sunlight hitting it, and you can kind of feel that. But I think especially once we add the haze back in on top of everything, it'll all blend good, and with motion blur and all of that, I think that'll be fine. I like having this big rock in the background too. I'm wondering if I can like use this same bit a few times. I mean, I know I can't, but like, how obvious can we get with it? cool. And some of these little jaggy bits are maybe a little weird, but I'll just put, I'm gonna cover everything with sagebrush. It'll be fine. In fact, I might want to rescatter these sagebrush because right now they're absolutely everywhere. And once I know what the actual route that the camera's gonna be taking, most of these probably won't even be in the shot. But yeah, okay. Now I'm just gonna do the same thing, but with the larger piece. See if I can kind of get a different module I can use. And okay, this is looking pretty good to me. Still have to figure out how to make some pieces not intersect, but especially if like the camera's moving real quick. And I love how much getting an HDRI and some like volumetric haze in there just helps make this feel like a real place. Okay, let's swap out the HDRI. Just want to try all of them. Yeah, I like it overcast. It does render pretty slow, but I think that'll be okay. I don't think it's going to be a very long sequence, and my words are starting to get a little bit slurred, although you can't tell because I delete all those takes, but I think I might call it a night for tonight, and at a later night, I will make a dude on a bike. And yeah, I did end up staying up a little bit and doing some more work on this shot, mostly just copying some more rocks into the distance. And I cycled through a bunch of different HDRIs and finally found one that I wanted. I liked this one just because it has this low-lying sun, which means we're going to be getting that great sense of motion as things pass into and out of the sunlight, which I think works really good for just adding all of these layers and making the shot feel really kind of epic and expansive. And something that's kind of obvious but made a huge difference was flipping this rock face so that the baked-in sunlight actually matches the lighting from the HDRI. Like, it doesn't feel as Photoshoppy anymore because it just gels a lot better. The camera motion is not good. It's basically just 3 keyframes. You can watch my animating a action camera tutorial I uploaded to the Patreon a while back. The reason, like the camera shake feels like it's a bunch, it actually isn't. Like, it's only wiggling like this much, and we regularly watch camera shake in movies. It's like crazy. It's because it doesn't match like the reality of the shot. I wanted to kind of imply that maybe there's like a dune buggy and we're chasing a guy on a motorcycle, but I animated it kind of as if it's a drone shot, and then I decided to split the difference by adding a car camera shake over the top of it, which means it doesn't feel like this is reacting to the ground at all. It just feels like it's shake that's stuck on top of the thing. But the final will feel really good. And I added this truck placeholder going through, and I'm glad because all the sagebrush is just planes. We have a pretty good frame right here, which will make animation a lot easier. But yeah, we'll start figuring out how to rig up the bike dude and get a Nathan scan and putting that thing together, I think, in the next video. Or maybe I've got some ideas for how I want to do the truck. I want to do a really wacky design for the truck, which would be kind of a cool sci-fi vehicle thing, hopefully. But yeah, hopefully this was kind of interesting. This was a lot easier to make than most videos, I can say, because it's just doing stuff. So I'm hoping people are into it. I'll talk to you soon. All right.